Okay, I think we're about to get started. It's about 1 minute past the hour. We still have some people who are joining, but if we miss any content, this webinar will be recorded and we will distribute to anyone who's registered. Thanks so much for joining our webinar today. We're going to cover accessibility and assessments and how ReadSpeaker accommodates student and instructor needs. My name is Nate Murray. I'm the marketing director at ReadSpeaker. I'm joined by the stars of the show, Paul Stisser and Ginger Dewey, pardon me, who both work on our education team. Ginger is an expert in ReadSpeaker products and how they integrate in instructional design. As a former teacher and educator herself, she's well suited to anything that comes from ReadSpeaker and pertains to instruction, accessibility, assessments, and accommodating students with any sort of disability or learning requirements. So before we get started, I just would ask that if people could fill out the poll. It's just a 1-question poll letting us know which LMS you use. That way we can kind of tailor the presentation accordingly. I just launched it. Feel free to fill that in, and then I'll hand it off to Paul. As I mentioned, this webinar will be recorded. It won't be closed captioned, the live version, because it's an on-demand webinar, but we will put it up on YouTube. It'll be available in the next couple of days, and it will have it will be closed captioned at that time. If you have any questions or answers that you need answered throughout the chat, please just submit it through the Q&A section. We'll do our best to not include these in the recording. If you have a question that you want to keep private, just send it to Paul Stisser, who is a panelist. So Ginger, I'm hoping that you are able to see this poll. If not, I will send you the results. But it looks like we've got responses from everyone, so we're about to get going. Paul, I'm going to hand it over to you. Paul, again, is the director of the education team at ReadSpeaker. Without further ado, take it away, Paul.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ginger, for sharing your screen. Can we go on to the next slide?
Sure.
Well, just a little bit about our team. Once again, Paul Stisser. I've been really working with ReadSpeaker. I think I'm coming up almost on 7 years of working here, heading up the LMS partnerships and integrations. And Nate also shared kind of our introduction. I can't say enough about my colleague and teammate, Ginger Dewey, of her skill set and background to support not only your LMS, but also UDL and accessibility. So just had to give a little bit more kudos there. Next slide. So often when we're talking about ReadSpeaker, we're actually talking about a product that I can almost guarantee that you're utilizing somewhere today on your campus. You may not realize it's ReadSpeaker, but so often we are embedded in many different products. Today, what we're highlighting is our LMS integrations, which are truly unique. They're all certified products with our partners, whether it's Brightspace by D2L or Blackboard or Canvas or Moodle, and then also the new Open LMS. We continue to advance the LMS and system technology integrations. Just some places that you may not realize that you're utilizing ReadSpeaker, but you truly are just some of our other products out there. One is the McGraw Hill platform, Cengage, MindTap, Gale. If you go and you see the player button there, that's the ReadSpeaker text-to-speech engines. Blackboard Ally, they're a terrific client of ours. And if you're using their alternative formats and their MP3 downloads, that's the ReadSpeaker technology being utilized to create those audio files. We work with many different content authoring tools like SoftChalk and CourseArc. So if you have a LMS account and also a ReadSpeaker account, let us know, and we can also turn it on to the SoftChalk or CourseArc programs. One of my favorite clients is Link Systems International, and they're utilizing us in some of their content and their one product, NetTutor. And then but the additional education, one that we know a lot of people are using for professional development, mainly as people are trying to get their courses better online, is our is our partner Quality Matters and how they utilize us in their Moodle instance. And as they transition to the next LMS that they're utilizing, which is Canvas, they're also going to be utilizing us in there. Library of Congress, you know, they're just another one of the major programs that are utilizing us. And then, of course, there's 10,000 other probably websites globally that are utilizing us. The other thing that people don't realize is that often we're getting compared to the other assistive technology programs that are out there. I have to say the things that differentiate us is that there really isn't any other program out there that are creating text-to-speech or audio production, and that is what we do. We are pioneer voice technology. So we're utilizing our technology. We're making it better. We're making it most accurate in the marketplace. Well, they are, and I'm, you know, I apologize. I'm not trying to speak bad about them, but they're buying it from somebody else. Often they may be buying it from us too. And of course, many other assistive technologies that are utilizing us, mainly with our functionality of not only streaming our technology, which often what we do in the LMS, but also some of our offline capabilities, mainly with some of the AAC products to support nonverbal individuals. Go ahead, Ginger. So who benefits from ReadSpeaker? Well, one, what we've seen really in the last, I would say 2.5 years is the need to provide accessibility and accommodations in online learning and how people are utilizing that. We saw a rush to the LMS integrations, mainly using us with different types of, let's say, lockdown restrictive tools. People are looking to utilize us. So online, they're looking to utilize us in those aspects. However, the other thing we need to take into consideration is that between 15%, I actually saw another study that said about 23% of the world's population are experiencing or have some type of disability. Another study that I saw that we're citing here is that also when it comes to online learning, 60–80% of those individuals are not disclosing their disability. So I say in online learning, they're already at risk right there because they're not getting the accommodation, they're not getting those tools to level the playing field. And this is one of the reasons why we like to describe ReadSpeaker and push the initiative of universal design for learning is to help individuals like those who may not have the money to do that. Also, sometimes there's barriers to access, whether it's mental health or ADD. We have a lot of individuals who are using PTSD or who have PTSD, excuse me, coming back, you know, some veterans. And then also we have many who are, English is not their first language, which can be extremely complex when you get into terminology from a medical program. And then also ReadSpeaker makes learning more inclusive. One of our great colleagues that we work closely with often is Dr. Tricia Fola at Wayland Baptist. And she always talks about every learner matters and matters equally. Dr. Tricia is a terrific advocate for UDL. And of course, when we look at ReadSpeaker, we're looking at how it falls into those different levels of UDL, meaning the multiple means of representation, the action of expression and engagement. The other thing that I do want to bring up, because often people kind of forget this, because yeah, we are focused on accessibility and providing accommodation. But we hear this often, mainly in like Quality Matters courses, when we have faculty members who are sharing with us that, hey, I didn't think, this accessibility tool would really be utilized by me, but at the end of the night, after teaching all day and taking courses and getting my kids ready for school and doing dinner and different things like that, they said, I was exhausted. And the ability to multitask and press, click, and listen dynamically on the fly was something that I was finding that I was opting for because I needed to consume content and listen and get through that content in that course. And ReadSpeaker was a terrific tool in helping that. So it really levels into that learning preference that an individual may have. And it may not be just a learning preference that they opt for always, but it's something that they're, resorting to a couple times during it could be a week, something that isn't going to be utilized all the time, but can opt for it. Next one, Junior.
Okay. First off, Paul, I believe this is where we were going to start talking about the tools themselves. And in this webinar, what we're concentrating on is accessibility and assessment. So I wanted to talk about some of the tools, and I'm going to just show them right here, and then I'll demo them a little bit later, that some folks would consider an accessibility tool, and some might not think of them as an accessibility tool. First off, we have Enlarge Text. If you have lower vision, or you are ADD, ADHD, have a cognitive challenge to where you need to receive things in very small snippets of information, Enlarge Text is a great way to do that. Another tool that we have is our text mode. And text mode allows us to change the font on the file, change the size of the font. We do have the open dyslexic font. It also allows us to change the text and background color. So we can change it up to where it's comfortable to you. And as Paul was saying, at the end of the day, sometimes you're tired and you don't need the stark contrast that black text on a white background is. You want to soften that. Or you may decide, I need to help myself learn in a different manner. So in my history course, I'm going to use a blue background. In my psychology course, I'll use a pink background, and then so on down the line to help use color as a way of separating things. Another thing we have is the page mask. And with the page mask, this is going to show my age here, but back when I was in school, we had a sheet of paper with a hole cut in it, and we pushed it up and down on our textbooks to help us stay online. We have the electronic version of that, and we call it a page mask. And the cool thing about it is you can make the window larger, but you can also make it smaller. Whereas with the sheet of paper, you weren't able to make it smaller after you had enlarged it. Another tool that people might not think of as an accessibility tool is the reading speed. And if you are a second language learner, then you may need a slower speed so that you can learn those pronunciations. If you're studying a course that has a very high vocabulary, you might not be pronouncing it right. So listening carefully to those pronunciations will help you associate the written word with the spoken word. In docReader, and this is a shot from Blackboard, in Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Open LMS, not Canvas, in Blackboard, Moodle, and Open LMS, you will have a sheet of paper with a speaker on it. And when you click on that sheet of paper, what it's going to do is it's going to open what you see. Went the wrong way. Sorry about that, guys. It's going to open what you see on the right-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you'll notice that we can change pages. We've got our listen tools. We've got layout and text mode, so you have that. On the bottom row, we do have that equal sign, which is the page mask, but we also have a reading ruler. And a reading ruler is just like a note card. It covers up the bottom part of the screen. It is adjustable for height, so you can make it as narrow or as wide as you want. But one of the greatest accessibility tools that we have here is our highlighter. And with our highlighter, you are able to mark up your document in your LMS, and then you can collect those highlights. And if you are colorblind, You can put borders on it. The yellow has an underline, the blue is a dashed border, the green is a dotted border, and the red is a solid border all the way around the highlight. So that way you can see what is being collected. Now, if you're studying, you probably want to use two colors, one for the I need to know this and I know I need to know this, and one for I'm clueless. So when you hit that clueless part, you can highlight it and then go back and ask your instructor. Your highlights are kept on your cookies on your machine. And you can see a little bit better here. Notice you can show and hide those highlights. Now, as we were saying, accessibility tools inside docReader basically include your reading speed, your settings for your highlighting while you're reading, and your text mode. The text mode itself, the page mask, the reading ruler, and listed there should also be our highlighter. Now in TextAid, you have annotations and highlighting. You can do that. You can convert your images to text. That's a great way if you are a big use your cell phone to take notes person and you need those visual images. But what's really cool is so many of these students that are in our disabilities office have EPUBs for their textbooks. Well, disabilities office can share those EPUBs with the students through TextAid. Another thing that makes it easier on students is to proof listen to papers. Now, with proof listening, we always tell our students, proofread your paper. Well, if you proofread your own paper, what you end up doing is reading what you thought you wrote, not what you wrote. But if you proof listen to a paper, then you hear your mistakes, your left out words, your typos that are still a word like from and form, lean and learn, and so on like that. And then your clumsy sentence that is starting one way, changing and going another way, and something happened in the middle and the two parts don't connect. So you hear those things. Well, that gets you ahead of the curve when you go to the tutor. Now on our extension, so often now in this COVID-19 timeframe, a lot of instructors do not necessarily have the advantage of having their electronic copies of things with them. So they might have had a printed copy of a document and they put it up for students to read. Well, if you need to read something and it's a printed document and you scanned it and you put it up there, then you got a problem. That's one giant image. Well, we can't make it accessible for you, but we can make it readable for your students by using the Snapshot tool in TextAid. It's on the extension, and basically it OCRs the text that's on the page. The TextAid extension is only available for Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Opera browsers, and we use it by highlighting and clicking listen to read the documents inside the Canvas LMS. Now, one thing about TextAid, your Bookmarklet and your extension read any web page. You could be out on CNN, you could be on your bank page and you want to read something about how to apply for a loan or something like that. It can read all that to you. Testing. One of the big things about testing is that if a human is administering the test, whether we like it or not, our voice and our face tend to give away answers. If we're reading a question, sometimes what happens is your face lights up, or you have one of those expressions that is, huh? Where'd that come from? Or oh yes, that's the right answer as you're reading it to the student, because your mind is going to start asking those questions of yourself. And you don't realize you're giving off those human cues. And having something like ReadSpeaker read it has just leveled that playing field to what the other students are getting. We always think of students with disabilities as having disadvantage in the classroom, but if a human is reading the test, they have an advantage instead of a disadvantage. So you've leveled that playing field. But what else you have done is you have helped them build their confidence and their independence. Because so often students that require this oral presentation and having to have tests read to them are a little bit less independent, and they lack self-confidence because they're always having to rely on someone else to assist them. Well, this allows them to do it themselves. So if they want to answer question 1 and then question 4 and come back to 2 and 3, if that's allowable on the test, they can do that. If they answer something and then they get to thinking, you know, that's not right, I need to go back to that, they can go back to where it was and re-answer it, provided the instructor lets them do this. The other thing it does is it frees up your disability staff so that they can attend to other duties. And as we know, most disability areas are understaffed for the amount of students they work with. So there's always something else that you need to be doing besides standing there reading a test. Our ability to read tests is in all LMSs. And let's see, let me get them right here. Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, and Open LMS, you will see webReader, which is right here. However, when you are in D2L, for right now, we have the Bookmarklet, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But coming in the fall, that might be changing, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. We do work with Respondus Lockdown Browser, and we are compatible with Honorlock. Now, to give you a quick screenshot, and I apologize for the way this looks. This is screenshots of a video taken in Respondus Lockdown Browser. And that's the only way you can get there, because Respondus Lockdown Browser is doing its job. As you can see up here, here is our player. This screenshot, I believe, came out of Canvas, and you can see it's reading the question. Over here on the right, you have the Bookmarklet, and with the Bookmarklet, it is launched by pressing the Control-R combination, log in, press Control-R, and the Bookmarklet launch. The webReader is auto in the system, so all you have to do is click on the tab when you are there. Now I'm going to show, and this will be in the YouTube version of it, and if anyone needs the PowerPoints, please let us know and I can send you a PDF of them. But these are different playlists that we have. We have the docReader, webReader. We have 3 for TextAid. 1 is for TextAid as the full platform. 1 is for the Bookmarklet. 1 is for the extension. Then, of course, we have speakUp, which is a separate product that we use for reading offline on Windows machines. And then we have how to use ReadSpeaker in Blackboard, Brightspace, Canvas, Moodle, and Open LMS. Paul, do we have any questions before I'm going to go to the demo?
Well, I've been answering those questions. I think one of them came from Kathy, and she just asked, you know, how does ReadSpeaker work with some of those? I'm paraphrasing too, so I apologize, Kathy, on your question. How do we work with some of those trickier exams? And I basically just chatted back saying that those exams, sometimes it's recommended that speakUp is used because of the ability to download our speech engines to read those exams. So what we'll do is we'll be following up. ATI exam is, Kathy, is a perfect example of how you would want to use speakup with, because it doesn't allow a lot of the, let's say, browser extensions to support it. So the speakup tool, I have confirmed, I have a couple clients that are utilizing ReadSpeaker speakup specifically for ATI and some of the, let's say, placing exams that may be out there for college entrance. So go ahead, Ginger.
Does anyone else have a question? Does anyone else have a question before I start the demo?
Actually, we do have one more. And this is from Elizabeth. And it says, it records annotations and cookies in the web browser. How can students save annotations to an account?
All right, with annotations and highlights, both of them, you can save them to a print file. And once you have saved them to a print file, even if they're erased from the cookies, you still have that print file that is the record of that. And I always suggest that to students. Anytime you make markups, you never know when something's going to happen to your browser and you have to clear everything out, or you're going from college to home or home to college and you swapped machines. I always suggest collecting up the information and saving it and doing a print of that. And a print of it could be a print PDF. In TextAid, you can do a save as, and it saves it, excuse me, as a new document in TextAid. If you're in docReader, it is a print PDF that comes out of the collection. So there is a way to save that before you go on to leaving that machine or happening to clear it out because of something else that went on. Other questions? Okay, I have up in front of me D2L, and this is a test that we have here, and I'm going to press Start Quiz. And since I am in the live part, please know that it's going to take a little bit of time. I am on a satellite internet system, and if the wind blows wrong, it might blow a tree in front of my satellite and cause a little bit of difficulty, so just bear with me as I get loaded up here. I'm certain we have all experienced slow internet times over the last few months. All right, here is our test. Just a couple of quick questions on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my Bookmarklet. Now with my Bookmarklet, if I'm not logged in, it's going to ask me to log in. I am already logged in, so it launched. Here's the Bookmarklet. I'll put him over here. And I'm going to highlight question 1 and click Listen. And it will take it a moment. And if you have cable internet, it would already be playing by now.
The only way to read parts of Brightspace with ReadSpeaker TextAid is to use the Bookmarklet. Question 1 options. True. False.
Did you hear right in there when it left the question? It said question 1 options, true and false. It's letting me know that they're moving from the question into the answers. Now let's say I have low visibility and I'm going to do something. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click listen and then I'm going to pause it. And that's so that I can get to my settings. And in my settings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my enhanced text visibility. Okay, now I can see the question enlarged at the bottom. So I'm going.
The only way to read parts of Brightspace with ReadSpeaker TextAid is to use the Bookmarklet. Question 1 options.
Now, in that, I meant just pause it and I accidentally turned it off there. But did you notice it put up the words question 1 options? So it's even telling you with the written as well as the audio that it is question 1 options. And that's a real cool choice. If your test is not in Lockdown Browser, you could use our extension. And with our extension, that's where we have the snapshot, but it works the same way. We'll listen to part of this question and notice I did not highlight the words question 2 1 point.
Which tool is not part of the TextAid extension? Question 2 options, Snapshot. Listen.
And did you notice it said question 2 options? It didn't say question 1 options. It knew it was question 2 without me highlighting question 2. All right, I'm going to swap to Canvas and I'm at a quiz here and I'm going to resume it. I think I've taken this quiz before. As you can see, I use the same type questions over and over. But in this quiz, I am in Canvas, and this would be true of Blackboard and Open LMS and Moodle. We would be using the webReader. Now in Blackboard and in Canvas, it appears as a little tab on the left-hand side. In Moodle, it is a block that has the word listen on the player. And in Open LMS, it also, I believe, has the tab. Now I'll click on that tab, and what's going to happen is my player has flown up here to the top of the page. It's got a drag handle where I can put it wherever. And if I'm in Lockdown Browser or I'm in Honorlock, doesn't matter, that tab is still there, so I don't have to do anything special, just click on it. Now, I have available to me an Enlarge Text, a text mode, and a page mask. And we're going to look at each one of these on our questions. So I'm going to start with just the Enlarge Text. And with the Enlarge Text, I'm going to highlight the question and the answers and click Listen. Notice I have a pop-up for Listen. I can choose Listen from it or from the player itself. And you'll see this at the bottom of the screen when it loads.
Sometimes you may encounter an image while...
Notice that I was able to enlarge it some more. I can keep going up to, I think it's 200%, but I'm not absolutely certain on that percentage. I can also decrease it. So this helps the student with lower vision. It also helps the student who has ADD, ADHD, because your eyes is tied to this. It's not looking at any other question on the page. You're drawn to it. It's also highlighting the words as it's being read, and it's very obvious which word it is, just like it would be in the question itself if I was having it read without the enlarged text. But this really pulls the student in onto that. I can say, well, I'm tired of that. I want to keep listening.
Sometimes you may encounter an image while
reading. But it's
reading.
still on. That's because it stays on until I go back to the enlarged text and change it and click it off. Now, you maybe have noticed that in Brightspace, I had a woman's voice. That was Sophie's voice. This is James' voice. Some people prefer a male, some people prefer a female, and in your language, reading language, you can swap between those, between American female and American male. All right, now let's look at text mode. So I'm going to highlight this question and I'm going to put it in text mode. Now notice in text mode, there's my question. Well, I'm having a lot of difficulty reading it, so I'm going to put it in Open Dyslexic because I'm dyslexic and I want a light yellow background and I need to pump it up in size some. So now there it is. I can click listen and it will play. I'm just going to do a few words.
Sometimes you may encounter
And
an
if you'll notice, I had the pause and the play button there. I can go ahead and crank this up some more or down. I can change my volume. We always suggest maxing it out and then taking care of the volume on your computer because that's where you typically do it. But here I can change my reading speed. Let's say I need to hear that just a little bit slower. So I'm going to move this down some. And then we're going to listen to the same phrase. Sometime you may encounter.
Sometimes you may encounter.
Okay. So the student who needs it a little bit slower can slow it down. Or if you need it a whole lot faster, you can speed it up and we'll hear the same phrase again.
Sometimes you may encounter.
All right, that gives you an idea of what's going on, and I'm going to pull this back down to about a normal speed in that neighborhood. So that was our text mode. Let's say I need a page mask. I can highlight my question and click on the page mask and click on listen. Notice I can control this window while it's loading.
Sometimes you may encounter an image while reading documents. Snapshot is the tool used to read the words on the image. Group of answer choices. True.
So you
False.
see, I can use this in combination with the listen to be able to focus exactly on what's going on there. And that's one way to work with the accessibility tools. Questions? I see some going on in chat. Do we have some before I go on?
Ginger, I think a great question came from Becky when she asked, can you enlarge the text but not use the voice? And I believe she's talking specifically about webReader.
Okay. That's a good question.
So I was thinking in the simple view, to where if they change the font, let's say they change it to Open Dyslexic, they would still have the ability to increase the font.
Correct. You can
Without
do it there. You can pull this up.
Yeah.
You know, you could pull it up to a +7 and really expand out this box some. I don't know that I'd want to pull it up that high. The other thing you could do is if you wanted the question answered using just the enlarged text and you didn't want to be in that, we could use the Bookmarklet. And when I click on listen here, come on, when I click on listen, why are you not behaving? I'm not navigating away from the page. Okay, I'm going to have to reload the page for that to happen. But what would happen is you would have that magnified text at the bottom. If you pressed pause, it would be there. You could use that. But I would think that the text mode, which is available in the webReader and in docReader. And if you're using the full platform of TextAid, it's available there. In assessments, we would be talking about using the webReader. Next question.
I have one here that came in through chat, Ginger. This came from Kathy.
Okay.
And the question is, many of our exams are timed. Is this user-friendly for faculty to do extended time for individuals?
I would not think that once the student has decided what functions they need to use, that they would need extended time. The only thing I can think of, and this would be something you may be accommodating anyhow right now with the COVID-19, is people that have slower internets. The pages are not going to load as fast. And typically when I taught online courses, the rule of thumb was to add 5 minutes to every 30 minutes of testing for internet loads for the students who have dial-up. And in the area where I work, dial-up internet is still available, believe it or not. And we have a lot of DSL. Not everyone has cable. Very few people actually in the county that I live in have cable. We are mostly on satellites, and satellite speeds are slow. So with that in mind, our practice was add 5 minutes to every 30 minutes and allow that for everyone, not for specific users. Other questions? And did that answer your question, Kathy?
Hope so. Kathy, if not, just send an email to paul.stisser@readspeaker.com. Answered it for me, Ginger. So for right now, I think that we've got, I do have a lot of questions regarding webinar recording. It will be available after the webinar is over. But for now, I think we have answered all questions, Ginger.
Thank you. Paul, you want to make our announcement about September, October timeframe?
Yes, I can. So if you notice, the ReadSpeaker webReader functionality for reading assessments was available in, Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Open LMS. And we were also sharing how we had to utilize ReadSpeaker TextAid, the Bookmarklet to read inside Canvas. We are happy to announce that come early fall, Brightspace by D2L and ReadSpeaker will be launching our newest integration, which will be the webReader functionality natively inside D2L quizzes. So there wouldn't be a need to utilize the Bookmarklet. You could utilize just the webReader feature functionality there and make that available. So we're real excited about that. Also, there was some load ordering difficulties sometimes with SCORM packages, specifically only in D2L, and this should also be addressed. So we're real excited about addressing not only assessments, but also the SCORM issue. And if you have any questions, please reach out to myself and Ginger, and we'll take care of that. And also, before we go, please realize that ReadSpeaker is extremely easy to implement if you're using a learning management system like Canvas, Brightspace, D2L, Brightspace by D2L, or Blackboard. Honestly, to implement a Canvas webReader integration takes about 15 minutes. So it's extremely easy to add our feature functionality via the global plugin. So we, at this time, to evaluate our product, if anybody's interested, they can reach out to us, and we'll set up a free trial for you to test it out in your Sandbox or your QA, just to get a good feel for how easy this technology is to utilize for it.
And I would like to add to that, if paying for things right now is difficult, the college I was at, we purchased the full package of the 3 tools because we were a D2L client. So we needed all 3 of them. And we bought them through Perkins funds. And I know a lot of Perkins funds this year will most likely be centered around accessibility and assessments because of all the difficulties folks had with COVID-19. It maybe changed your Perkins funds focus. So keep that in mind. There are other grants out there that can help pay for our products.
Just a quick
Are there
question.
any last questions?
There was just a quick question from
Okay.
Alex regarding how would I add it in on Canvas. So honestly, Alex, we would need to know your LMS URL. Traditionally, it's the Sandbox that we, or the testing site that we have that is shared. We would then share with you the steps to implement ReadSpeaker WebReader for Canvas. Like I said earlier, you could probably do it in 15 minutes easy. You then upload you cut and paste the global plugin, and the ReadSpeaker, very similar to what Ginger was showing you, is going to appear on your global navigation on the left-hand side of your Canvas LMS. And then at a click of a button, all the functionality that Ginger shared with you on the WebReader for Canvas is available dynamically right there for your students to utilize. It's very easy.
And to add to that, it's added through Theme Builder. And if you already have other JavaScripts that are added, you just add our JavaScript to the page that holds all the JavaScripts, and it loads all the other items that you have that are run through JavaScripts along with ours. 5-10 minutes, 15 max, and you're fully installed. Any last questions before we wrap this up and we give you a little bit of time back?
I think that does it, Ginger.
Okay, thank you. Nate, you want to wrap us up? And thank you everyone for attending.
Sure will do. Thanks, Ginger. And thanks everyone for attending. I really appreciate the questions. If there were any that we didn't get a chance to answer, please just send an email to us. You can reach me directly, nate.murray@readspeaker.com, or Paul or Ginger, same format, first dot last name @readspeaker.com. Again, if there's any questions, hopefully we got to most of them. I really appreciate all the engagement. On behalf of Paul and Ginger, we want to say thank you. Hope everyone has an enjoyable rest of the day, and we will talk soon. We've got another webinar coming up next week that speaks a little bit more about student engagement. Please do attend. If you need a registration link, just email me. So thanks on behalf of Paul and Ginger. Paul, anything else to add?
No, I'd like to thank everybody for attending next week or for this week, and then also just a reminder about next week. And if anybody has any questions, please reach out to me, and I look forward to following up and making this next semester coming up the most successful for you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.